going, I'm not going to be mad at me, I'm going to be mad at you. So it's changed and it's an interesting dynamic, but it's true. And they love mentoring, or being mentored. They love being mentored. So to me, and what's really unique is, again, I'm observing it here, the kids that we have in camp absolutely love our counselors. They love the champions, they love our counselors, they really have bonded with our counselors, and our counselors have reciprocated that by really engaging and helping them also. And it's created a bond. And this generation really loves being mentored. So when you're coaching your minor hockey team, if you have an opportunity, even if it's a guy that's 3 or 4 years older and you want to get him engaged in what you're doing, if you bring him in on a volunteer basis, or you bring somebody young in that can still communicate and engage with the kids, and he can help carry your message, a guy that can mentor the kids on proper, it doesn't have to be on the way they play the game, just on the way they conduct themselves. Even if it's to the point where he's in the locker room during practice getting dressed with them, it goes a long ways with this generation. The older brother mindset really helps this generation a lot. Holding them accountable. One kid said, he said, my dad's coached me for 7 years, but he said he doesn't get accountability. He says accountability is just giving me shit. And he says that's what he thinks is accountability. And he said what he considers accountability is, he says he's been coaching me since I played, he was in football, I don't know what it is, Pop Warner or whatever, small. He said he doesn't get it. He said we never had a team that had accountability because my dad always took it away from us. He said what we need to have is to hold each other to a higher standard. And he said we love holding each other to a higher standard, but my dad keeps getting in the way. He said he's always taken over the conversation. Why can't he leave us alone and tell us how to do it and then let us do it? It has way more impact. This kid was 16 when he said it. And it's interesting. They want to be held accountable. They want the knowledge to be held accountable, but they want to be able to do the job. They want to be left alone to do the job. Now, I realize you got mites and peewees, it's a little bit different, but when you get to Bantam, and you get moving up past that, that's the attitude that you should have in your locker room. Accountability in minor hockey, it isn't about the play. They're still trying to figure it out. But it sure as hell is the way you treat your sweater and your equipment, the way you keep your locker room clean, the way you respect each other and the coaches. Those are things that that the players want, but they want the information on what to do, and then they want to be left alone to be able to do it. Not running in there watching you babysit them all the time. To me, this is really important, point 16. If you want to be a good coach, you have to recognize a person's value with this generation, their value to the team, not their strengths. So rather than tell a person what they do well, they want to know what they bring to the team. So, man, you shoot the puck well, you really stick handle well, your skating's really helping us. That has no impact. What has impact is what they bring to the team from an effort standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from an enthusiasm standpoint. That's what they want to know about. They don't want to hear what they bring from a skill standpoint. They want to know the stuff that's emotional for them, They want to know that they're contributing in that manner. And the last one for me is really important, stability. Clear expectations is really important. What they want to know is what you expect of them and what you're looking forward to seeing from them. They want to see stability. And stability is the consistent behavior of you, the coach. What really unnerves millennials and really discourages them is when the coach is 15 different people. He's this at practice, he's a nut in the games. He's this after a loss, and he's this after a win. What they want is consistent behavior from the coach. They understand that the game is wins and losses, they understand that, but the more consistent you can have in your behavior, the better you're going to be. Okay, so just going on to the stuff that's kind of neat. Starting with practice. So, some of this is a little bit of me and my pet peeves, so you get to listen to me bark about a few things, but some of it is, a lot of it is reality and what needs to take place. Every day you run a practice, one of the things you need to challenge yourself with is at the end, when you draw up your practice plan and you're going to go and run a hockey practice for your team, one of the things that you need to have in your mind is which part of this drill is challenging the mental part of the game. Timing, anticipation, decision making, reading, reacting, game sense. How much can I put into a drill that involves those aspects? Not just running a drill for the sake of running a drill. Running the drill to increase each one of your athletes' mental skills, not just the physical skills, but what are we putting in this drill that adds to his reading, react, timing, his game sense, his decision making, his anticipation? How can I put that in every one of my drills when I get past the warm-up? That's where you have to challenge yourself. If you want to be a good coach, you have to put the players in game-like situations as much as you can so you increase their read and react and their anticipation. And one of the ways you do that is that you increase progression. So one of the things that we do as a coaching staff, is we go every one of our team drills, every one of our drills that we run, we go from no resistance to full resistance. So what we do is we start developing, we go from defensive zone coverage, which is stick movement, to 5 versus the 2 coaches, to 5-on-2, to 5-on-5. So we allow the progression part of the drill to take place. We don't start with 5-on-5. We start with basic movement, with no resistance, to limited to resistance, to partial resistance, to full resistance.
Ken, just a question. Do you ever go beyond full resistance, like create, like let's say in the corner a 2 versus 3 where the 2 are trying to attack the net, like so kind of overload the resistance?
Which is the Russian mentality. Okay, we tried that because I had all these big ideas, 1-on-2, 2-on-3, 3-on-4, and our goalies got so bored they went to sleep because we didn't even get a shot on goal. We went 20 minutes on it. It was just a war, no shots on goal, and we're telling our guys to work harder, and in the end, 2 guys got injured and the goalies got no shots on goal. So I like to talk that I'm really going to do that, and then I'm going to gas it, to be honest with you, because it's frustrating for everybody and it doesn't work. But I think we do it off the rush more than we do it in zone. So we'll have a 2-on-3 drill off the rush, which is in a game, or 3-on-4 off rush, or 4-on-5. but not in the zone. It's too easy. Too easy to defend because your numbers are already there and you're sitting in front of people all the time.
Thanks.
Just remember something on the practices. So the fourth point there, the coach is the creator of activity. You got to be the most creative person there. Drills that develop the software skills. The game itself is a great teacher. And the biggest thing for me is small games, big results. I went and followed this guy named Ron Davidson across Canada in a Hockey Night in Canada tour. So we covered 8 cities in 8 weeks. And the way he operated with kids hockey is he had drill, small game. Drill, small game. So at the end of a 1-hour practice, he had 5 small games every time. And he creates, because I saw this, I couldn't believe how he does this. Because I got to tell you, I wasn't a big believer that you can create hockey sense. I believed you had it or you didn't. But I saw him create hockey sense through his practices. And we've done some of these drills just at the early stages that, you know, some of the things with no resistance and then people are in your way. But Ron went from drill, small ice game, drill, small ice game. And it was unbelievable how good those kids got. And we would run it on a weekend, 2 practices. And he would run the same drills on Saturday and Sunday. He would add a little bit more resistance on Sunday. But it was amazing how in 2 days, their anticipation and sense improved so much. So, to me, one of the things when you're dealing with kids hockey, rather than go from drill to drill to drill, if you can go from drill to small game, back to drill, your team is going to improve at an unbelievably high level. And Ron's a perfect example because he coaches in Whitby. He coaches last year he coached a minor midget team in Whitby. Another coach, and they on purpose by design, one coach had no system. They drafted the 2 teams. They were pretty close to equal. And they decided to experiment. One coach took and coached nothing but systems, X's and O's, and worked the players hard. And Ron coached the way he ran hockey clinics. And Ron's team beat him in a 2-game total goal by 9 goals at the end of the year. They were almost even at the start, and at the end it was just disgusting, the difference in the 2 teams. And so just understand when you're running your practices, if as many small ice games as you can incorporate, it's going to have big, big results. So let me ask you this. Minor hockey, who coaches minor hockey? Hands up. Okay. How much time, when you come out, how much time do you get before the game starts? 8 minutes, 6 minutes? Is that on average?
As much time as you dictate it. So we'll be ready 10 minutes before 8 minutes. I use about 5.
Okay. So the game starts at 7 o'clock. Your team can come out there at 5 to 7 or 10 to 7. So when we run the drills, so we're going to have a warm up for our goalie. Do we run the horseshoe around, 1 pass, and we've got half the players here, half the players here. This guy goes this way, gets a pass. We run that, don't we? Come on, right? So when 1 pass misses, the puck goes down here. We all wait. Have you ever thought about that 8 minutes, making it a practice? Have you ever thought, like for instance, the forwards carry the puck and they do a horseshoe cycle for a shot on goal? So you've got, instead of the goalie getting 10 shots and let's play, he gets 50. Have you ever thought about doing pivots, turns, give and go passes with your defenseman in here? Have you ever thought about incorporating something where it's point shot, cycle, tip, all kinds of shots? I watched the way he incorporated pregame skates. He took an 8-minute pregame skate and turned it into a complete hockey practice every night. He looked for opportunities for this team to get better. He didn't treat it like a pregame skate. He treated it like a pregame practice. So to me, if you want to really be creative, can you find a way to get more activity involving more players rather than two players going around, one guy gets a pass, another guy? You can incorporate a goal of the goalie gets 50 shots, the defensemen have 50 touches, and you can put your D-man on your side of the red line and they can work back and forth. They can do forwards, backwards, touch passes. They can do D-to-D stuff. Your forwards can run a series of figure eights. They can run, one side has a 2-on-0, the other side has a 2-on-0. You can incorporate all kinds of drills into a pregame skate. And I can tell you, the other thing, I watched his team play, and all the other team did was watch his team practice. They were done like dinner and the game hadn't even started. So just something to think about, creative. The game time. How to create the right atmosphere on the bench. Just understand something. Your role, you're the conductor of the orchestra. You impact the mood of your bench. So for instance, in our level, what we do in the NHL is we try to remove ourselves from the emotion of the game. So you see coaches in the NHL, they chew gum, they fold their hands like this. Some guys have rubbing stones in their pocket. We do anything we can to remove ourselves from the emotion of the game. The other thing we do is, the worst thing you can do as a coach is point out a mistake on the ice to the players on the bench. Like if you're sitting on the bench and you say, I can't believe Johnny did that. Did you guys see that? That's ridiculous. Especially in this generation, all they're thinking as they go on the ice, I hope that ain't me. They're not looking at the mistake. They're looking at, if he's saying that about Johnny, he's going to be saying that about me when I go on the ice. And I know it's there, but if you want to be a good coach, you have to find a way to remove yourself from the emotion of the game so the players don't just hear your voice.
What about a compliment?
Compliment, and I'm going to go to that, okay? The compliment that gets paid should be for the activity on the ice. So you sit on the bench and you say, man, what a great play by Johnny on that forecheck. That has huge impact in a positive way on the mood of your bench. When you point out positive activity on the ice, or as the players come off the ice, and you point out positive activity, it has a huge impact on the mood of your bench, just like negativity does. And the other thing for me is the teaching moments of, I use the word quiet confidence. Can you, the challenge for you as a coach is, can you find a way to not make yourself be the play-by-play voice? Shoot, pass, he's open there, get him the puck. Can you do that? Can you challenge yourself to remove yourself from the emotion of the game? Because what happens after time is that when you're calling out every play and you're calling out every activity, the kids stop listening to each other and all they're doing is listening for your voice. So the challenge for you is, can you put a mechanism? I've seen coaches that, I've seen some really different things. Like to calm down, a coach will wear a different shoe on the bench. He'll have a street shoe and a running shoe. I've seen coaches like me, I go like this. I fold my arms. It's the mechanism to remove myself from the emotion of the game. Guys chew gum. Guys that have their hands in their pocket. I guarantee there's either a silver dollar bill, a 50-cent piece, or an Irish rubbing stone. Something's in their pocket to calm down. Those are good coaches. They remove themselves from the emotion of the game. The other thing that coaches do is they bring the teaching moments to the middle of the bench. So they understand that the bench is a volatile area. The defensemen are on one end, the forwards on the other, the middle of the bench is the teaching area. So the players end up sliding there. That's when you become the teacher. That's the teaching area of the bench. But the biggest thing is, if you can point out positive activity on the ice, it has a huge impact on the mood of your hockey club in a good way. The other thing that's important is, one of the things that came out from the millennials was this, or two or three things. First of all, you're a minor hockey coach and you're coming to the rink. One thing millennials love is when they come in the arena and they see you there before them. They love it. You're greeting them outside the locker room. You're in the concession area, the area that they have to walk through. You're saying hello to them. It has a huge calming effect on them. To me, that's really important. And I know it's hard because we work for a living, we got jobs and everything, but that time that you're there before them is really important for them. And especially when you're outside the locker room and you're excited to see them, or you're wondering how their day went, or you say something personal to them, it's really, really important for them. The other thing for me is the way you carry yourself. The kids, there was 16 kids on the platform that were talking, and one kid mentioned the fact that the coach wears galoshes and his hat on backwards, and then the kids just started telling stories. So the way you carry yourself as a coach, the way you conduct yourself, it can have a really negative or positive impact on your players. I remember Ron was, and he's a big believer, and he was running we started in Vancouver, and we got to Calgary, and so what you do is you go and work in one of the association's rinks. And one of the rinks in Calgary we got to, and the guy comes there and he's got his hat on backwards. And Ron says, why is your hat on backwards here? Why are you coaching with your hat on backwards? He said, well, all the kids know me as the guy with the hat on backwards. He said, I'm the guy. And Ron says, no, you're not. He threw him right off the ice. Sent him home. Said, that's not the way we operate. And to me, it had a huge impact on the rest of the instructors. Like, everybody conducted themselves in a proper manner because the kids are looking. How you carry yourself, the kids are looking. Now it's time for the game. The importance of line changes, and I'm talking from Pee-wee up, nothing more pisses. The one thing players notice, they can't tell effort as much as you think they can of their teammates. They can't tell whether Johnny's working hard or whatever. But when Johnny doesn't change the lines and doesn't come off the ice and doesn't change properly, it infuriates the bench. Players in this generation cannot stand players that refuse to change even remotely close to the right time, to the right place. And if you want to build a good team, and you want a team that plays with structure and discipline, it's all based on line changing. Coming off the ice at the right time, length of shift, that's what kids look for. Because
effective deterrent or something like that would be?
well, to me, if you don't come off, to me, you have to sell the fact that we go on hard and we come off hard. And we change, like, you got to sell your players that changing is a really important part of the game. And that you got to have real value. To the point where at our level, now it's the NHL, but we practice line changes once a week. Changing is really important. The Olympic team in 2010, we won games based on line changes. But your team has to have it as a sense of pride. But what is important to know is the kids know that. They see it and they know it.
What do you do with little Johnny that doesn't come out?
He has to take a seat, take a rest. Can't be afraid of your players. The managing the bench and the fair play, here's the way it works. And I understand this because I coached 12 years of minor hockey. Don't make a promise you can't keep. If you're going to play to win, tell everybody you're going to play to win. But understand something. There's going to come a time in your coaching career where maybe you're not going to have a great team, and you're going to have to make a decision. And that's the thing is, what the word coach is, the understanding of the word coach is building a team. You can't build a team if you don't use all your players. And one of the most enjoyable times you can have is when you put value in every player. So to me, I understand wanting to win. We all want to do that. I don't care what people say. I don't care what happens, but what you say, because in 99% of the cases when you say everybody plays, we can't help ourselves. And it's okay to do that because kids have to learn about winning and losing. It's part of life. They have to learn that stuff. But understand something. The bigger picture is that when you sign up to coach, you sign up to build a team. You don't sign up to win. You have to make that decision. You can't have a team if you don't play everybody. So you have to find a way to include everybody. That's your job if you want to build a team. So we're talking fair play, we're talking managing your bench. What's really important is that you pride yourself in including everybody. The importance of pace. In order to have your team play with a high pace, our team overwhelms teams with their work. Our team overwhelms teams with their gamesmanship. But there's teams better than us. LA's a little bit better. They got a little more moxie. Chicago's got a little bit more skill, and they've got grit to go with their skill with great leadership. So we're trying to catch up to them, but we're a top team. We're a top team because we play with pace. The playing with pace is based in two areas. Number one is line changes. And number two is understanding that everybody prides themselves in being a 200-foot player. So we take pride in being a 200-foot team. That's when you get to play with pace. So when you're playing, when I play a three-line game, I can't play with pace. When you're coaching minor hockey and you've got three lines and you play with two, you can't play with pace. But pace wins games. Post game. This is the most important part from a coaching standpoint and then becoming a parent standpoint. This is the ones that the kids got really emotional about. Two things. When the kids could tell you right away which, they would talk about which coach they liked and which coach they didn't. And one of the things they didn't like about coaches was they didn't like the coach that when they lost the game, if he came inside the locker room, it was to scold him, or if he didn't come inside the locker room, they never saw him. So the coach would just go home. And the kids were really discouraged by that. So one of them said, we feel like we've let our coach down, but then he's not there, so then we really are discouraged. We feel like we've made him angry, and we don't want to do that. And one of the things the kids really appreciated was the fact that the coach either came in the locker room and talked to him in a controlled manner, or he was waiting outside to boost them up. And the ones they really had a tough time with, and some guys were mad and angry at, were the ones that just left. And so how you handle the post game is really important. Are you there for them? Or are you not? Your contact, I wrote down here, your contact with each player before they leave. That's really important for the players. That 10 minutes that you're outside the locker room, ready to pat them on the back, to keep them going, win or lose, is really important for them.
So you've done your job, regardless the kid is still, or lost the game. And you're still trying to, you did good at this, you did good at that. We didn't win, but it's okay. We have another game.
Yeah,
And they're still, I don't want to play no more.
yeah. But you have a job, when you see that, so you send them out, if you see that they're still down, then you've got to take a mental note of that and help them further down the line. Like you got to, even if it's calling them at home, I know it's minor hockey, but that's your job. That's your job. You're trying to build a team. You're trying to boost people's image of themselves. If you feel like there's no recovery coming on, then you gotta do that. That's part of coaching. I don't know how many times in midget hockey I did that. Hundreds of times when I saw a kid that was despondent. I'd phone and talk to him, and when you sign up, that's what you sign up to do when you're a coach. Well, understand something in coaching. It's not about X's and O's. And I use this term all week here. Your job is to boost hearts and minds. That's coaching. Hearts and minds is coaching, not systems. The use of parent meetings and reminders to ensure that the parents understand their role and appreciate the importance of their post-game conduct. When I coached midget hockey, we had parent get-togethers once a month. We had parent newsletters twice a month. Now, I know it's hard to do that stuff, but we sent out newsletters twice a month on the activities of our team. Our record, we had a person that did that. He had an interview with the general manager, which was a quarter of a page. He had an interview with the coach that was a quarter page, and he interviewed one of the players, which was a quarter of a page. And then he had the stats, the practices, everything. Twice a month, he kept the parents up to date. This is what the coach feels. This is where we're at as a team. This is what the general manager feels, all that kind of stuff. And he had small get-togethers for the parents. And some of them were like little things like, hey, the team's playing at 7 o'clock. Can we get all our kids there at 6:30? Put them in the locker room, and he'd come in and supply pizza or something like that, or he'd have just a general meeting with them. But he met with them once a month. Sometimes we tried to turn it into a dinner, if we could. But he focused on paying attention to the parents. And the newsletters kept everybody up to date and kept everybody informed. And he went a long ways in doing that stuff. The positive, to me, the car ride home is everything. And you should have heard the comments about the car ride home. Academics, kids trying to hide, not wanting to get in the car ride home. So I came up with this statement. What we want to see is 3 positives on the car ride home. And if you can only find one, then say the damn thing 3 times. But come up with it. That car ride home makes most kids paranoid, especially when things haven't gone well. That car ride home is one of the major reasons that kids quit hockey, quit sports in general. And they lined those 16 kids up, and one kid was on the spelling team. He quit because he got blasted in the car ride home. You should have heard the stories about the things they quit due to the car ride home. And one of the moderators asked the parents, or not the parents, the people who were in the stands, or not in the stands, in the auditorium, about that part of it, and you could have heard a pin drop. Like every person that was a parent in there knew exactly what those kids were talking about. And all the people that were there, I got a feeling it really impacted a lot of them to change the way they were doing business with their kids after the game. And kids were telling stories about one kid's trying to hide in the garbage can because he thinks that's where he can't be found, and he's not getting back in the car. And one kid's on the payphone trying to call a cab. And I mean, all the stories were incredible. And so it's just in closing on this, Carly, how are we doing for time?
It's 4:45.
Okay. It's a really big deal being a coach. I don't care if you're coaching rep. I don't care if you're coaching house. I tell this story, and it's a true story. I was coaching my second year as the head coach in Philadelphia. So this would have been 2003. And my second year, Mr. Snyder had decided that he was going to, the way it is in Philadelphia is Mr. Snyder owns the Flyers, but he also owns all the land. He owns every parking stall for football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. So it's a cash cow. He was going to buy this piece of land across the street, which is now in play now, and turn it into this monstrous casino and horse racing track. So he was going to borrow a lot of money, somewhere around $600 million. And so he phoned me one day and he said, we're at this business meeting and we're talking to this banker about this project, and the banker wants to come and have a meeting. He says he knows you. So I thought, well, I don't know, maybe he knew me from Dallas, or maybe he knew me from Kalamazoo or whatever. I didn't even think. The banker was a Canadian who happened to play in Sherwood Park, who lived in San Diego, and wanted to know why I didn't play him in the Air Canada Cup final, and wanted to have that discussion 20 frickin' years later. And I got my owner out there. He wants his $600 million from this banker. So that's just the impact. I could barely remember the player. I couldn't remember why the hell I didn't dress him. But I was gobbling and gibbling up a storm. I thought maybe I was trying to come up with anything I could at that time. But that's the impact you have on children. You have unbelievable impact on children. And you have to remember that when you coach, that they respect you and appreciate you and admire you more than a lot of school teachers, because you're protecting something that they love to do, play sports. And you have to make sure you understand that, the impact that you have. I have some of my best friends now are people that I've coached in Sherwood Park. And I'm close with a lot of ex-players. And they tell stories about me that I don't even remember. And they tell things I did, and they impact their kids, and some of them are principals, some of them police officers, whatever. They tell things that I did. I was just trying to win hockey games and build teams. But they carried them 20, 30 years down the road. And that's the big impact you folks have. So just understand it, that they don't forget, and they carry it with them. And if it's something good, they use it. If it's something bad, they never forget it. So, questions? Open it up, anything, doesn't matter. About this, about general stuff. This is our last phase, gang. We've had lots of good discussion.
Get the loan.
What did he got the loan? but not from that banker. I think he was charging too much interest.
How about team building? Do you do things that, team builders in general, like at the beginning of the year or something like that, you know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about team building because it taught us a big lesson. We were in Columbus and we had a pilot down team building, which is basically we took 2 players and we put them way back in the bush, and it was like an airplane had crashed, and they had to go into the bush, build a traverse, they call it, the traverse, and bring them out of the bush. So they were injured. So we're there, and 2 hours later, one of our guys comes out of the bush, and the other, about 20 minutes later, the rescue operation comes out of the other side of the bush. No pilot. And so I says, we got a problem. Like, where's the injured pilot? And it's getting dark out. And they inform us that they didn't like the guy, so they just left him in the bush. The thing with team building is, it used to be a big deal. It used to be a really big deal 10 years ago. And so we did everything with structure. You know, we did all the team building stuff that goes on. And what we found out is this generation doesn't want it anymore. What they want, they feel like everything they've got is structured for them. Practices are structured, school's structured, everything is structured. What they want from team building is to just hang out and talk to each other. So what these guys want from team building is something that's unstructured by us. And I was really, what's really interesting is watching the dynamic on the other side of the wall here. The kids from Calling Lake come in every day, and they shoot hoops, they play, they do whatever, but they end up playing a ball hockey game or a boot hockey game here. They have a blast the way we used to do it, which was throw your sticks in the middle, pick teams, and play. That's what this generation wants. They don't mind if you put them in a position to do that, but what they don't want is you to organize the bowling tournament, or you to organize the activity, or to bring somebody in and show them how, like all this, and nothing against it, because some of my best friends are in the military, but this military activity that goes on that you think is helping them, they don't want it anymore. What they want to do is do things where you're not hanging around and organizing it. They organize it themselves, or you put them in a position where they can just hang out and have fun. So if you can do it in a natural setting, and they are able to do it and organize themselves, it's great team building stuff. But if you're doing all the work, I think it works against it now. At least that's what the players tell us. Players nowadays tell us, stop trying to organize us. We're organized enough. Like, give us the freedom to organize ourselves. Like we say to them, like the greatest thing we've ever done is for our team is delay the charter. Is say, listen, it's a big win. Rather than leave in 20 minutes, it's 90 or 2 hours, and the charter can wait. And we'll foot the bill if he's got to wait. And let's go have a couple of beers and talk about things. And they end up playing pool, and they end up hanging out and firing darts and doing things that are unorganized, just organized by themselves. I think that's the best team building that's going on right now. Any other questions? Anything, doesn't matter. Well, listen, thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. It's we've had a lot. I know you've been inundated with a lot of information. The stuff that Ray gave you was similar to the stuff that we gave the coaches yesterday. So a lot of it is pertinent information. Hopefully that helps you understanding. But I think this stuff's really important on how to build your team and how the players. It's really nice feeling to understand how the players perceive you and how important you are. You are really important, the most important person on the team, but how you conduct yourself. They used to overlook things, And they used to not worry about things. They don't do that anymore. They don't overlook anything anymore. And so you're a very important piece, but you got to conduct yourself in a proper manner to get the benefit out of for the players.
Ken?
Yep.
I got a question. First of all, did you share with these guys what you shared with me about when calling Lake kids come out on the ice? And you said it here in a different way a couple minutes ago. So I'll just paraphrase. Ken said it was quite interesting. Well, I'm standing on the ice, and he said all the guys you invite to the camp